conversation. Cool conversation. Cool conversation.
This is a man's world. This is a man's world. There would be nothing without a woman or a girl. Well, my love has come along, so I'm saving all my love for you. So cold without you be beside me, unbreak my heart. Strange fruit hanging, blood on the leaves, and blood at the roots. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me.
Get any forward swimmer swim. She's definitely not new to this game, ladies and gentlemen. She's been doing this for a long time. And when I say this, I mean when you mention the word Prinnie, the words professionalism, class, effortless vocals, um, all of those things plus more. I've known this woman for many, many, many years. We've come up with tracks together. I haven't sung, though she sang. It's probably a good thing that she does singing. But I'm very glad to have her on the show tonight. It's been way too long since we've spoken, Miss Cassidy. But welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Yes, we have known each other a long, long time. Let's not count the years because I feel like.
Girl,
But
we look good. We look
we,
good. You look
girl,
good.
we look good. But it's been a journey, and I'm at that age now that it's like, yeah, yep, you're doing that. Yep, you've done that, and yeah, it's funny, being in my 40s now, and just there's so many transitions and so many parts to this crazy industry that you talk about. But life keeps moving, and life keeps throwing things at you and doing other things and being mamas and being part of communities and several communities, and also having an obligation to the arts and to where it all really began, which is where we first met in a small community of what we used to be called like urban.
That word.
Oh, that
It's
word just
grating.
burns through my mind. When they
But
didn't.
it is. That's what it was called. That's what we fell into. And for many years, we had to wear that moniker, whether we liked it or not,
Yep.
until we found the collective voice to go, no, you're not gonna use that word because it was safe for them. It didn't
100%.
feel
But they had to put us somewhere.
yes, they did have to. They're always trying to slot us in until we went, no, we'll create the narrative. And
Absolutely.
I think that's where that power came in. But I want to go back to that initial kind of time where we were all just finding our feet, but really just coming together for the love of hip hop and the music and the club scene here in Sydney. So many familiar faces when we go out much younger, but not knowing what the talent each of us had residing inside of us, and talent that now when we see yourself, even before, popular music, competition shows and things. Prinnie, you've been singing, this is in your DNA. And I
Yeah.
think that's what, I think people are finally starting to realize. But I'd love to hear it in your narrative, what the journey's been like for you as Prinnie.
Well, yeah, I guess, well, my mum is Tongan, very Tongan, whatever that means. And so I grew up in church. I grew up around, everyone had a had the guitar, and I played piano, and, grew up in a time where, uh, also, besides from that, grew up in a time where if you chose to sing secular music, it was like this weird thing. And it was like my cousins that sang for church and me that sang for almost like self gain or something. It was like a selfish thing. And I actually talk about it a lot in my show, especially in the first version of my show where talk about how they kind of put these labels on me that I was like promiscuous and naughty and dirty, and talk about even like Miss Seeley's not Miss Seeley's blues in Color Purple,
Yes.
and talking about Shug and how she was kind of like out from her family, from her community. Her father was the preacher, and because she chose to sing secular music, was very much shunned by her community and her family. So that making that choice to do secular music at a really young age was really tough for me. And when you're young, you don't really see the path, you just walk in the path. And I was singing in clubs by the time I was like 14. There were places like Riva and Round Midnight, which was in the Cross, which obviously now is a completely different place. But it was run by the bikies. It was run by, I had family members that were very big in the Cross. So, like, I was protected, for lack of a better word. Also, I don't even know if you remember, but like, that was when I was 14. But once I got a bit older and legal, people were like, wait, you've been around for a bit. Like, I'm Tongan. I looked 21 when I turned 12. Okay.
It's
And I
black,
just,
don't crack, honey.
that's right. So it was very much like run by the bikies, but it was somehow in a weird way so safe because, and I don't know if you've seen the show Last King of the Cross.
Yes, I've watched all of those. Yes, I love it.
Love Oli Latu Kefu that I grew up with. He plays Tongan Sam, but there was something about the cross and being regulated by gangs. I know it sounds crazy, but there was some form of like order.
Yes.
I know it sounds weird.
It was almost safer then than it is now.
Oh,
Because
100%
they
it
looked
was.
out for
Each
us.
other.
They looked out for our community without even having to be asked.
Yeah. I remember the tunnel. Do you remember the tunnel?
Yes, very well.
And there was like, I remember there was like a guy, Lewis, on the door, and like there were different people, and it was always that like, the color folk nod that
Yes.
everyone had, and you kind of started with that, and by the time you keep coming back, you started these relationships with people because we were, if you think we're a minority now, we were such a minority then.
Seriously.
Yeah, and it was to the point where if you saw someone brown or black or, we would know them. They'd be like, oh, you don't know them. Yes, I do.
Yep.
And then there was another side of Sydney and Australia, my Tongan side, where, well, actually I find it was all the clubs back then in the 90s and 2000s. It was very segregated.
Yes.
The Lebanese went to one club. My Islander cousins, we would go to like Saloon Bar where Tiana and Chad, God bless him, where we all used to, but it was very segregated. Like Islanders would go to that club and Americans would go to this club. And whereas now it's all very, pop music is hip hop, is R&B. So it's all very intertwined and integrated. Whereas back then it was very like, you like hip hop, you go there. You like R&B, you go there. You like this, you go there. So now I wouldn't say any is better or worse, but I definitely grew up having like the cave and places like that where I did the R&B, but then I had my clubs with my cousins that were just all island music, and we'd definitely get to fight into a fight every weekend. But then also I grew up on stage singing with the incredible Doug Williams, where I was singing soul music on stage at the basement. And I remember I would have been about 18 or 19 when the film industry in Australia was so rich because our dollar was so bad that the Americans would come here and their 50 cent to a dollar, they're doubling their money. So they were making all these incredible films. So I literally would look up on stage and there was like, is it Mona? Marvin Gaye's daughter was there, and Lawrence Fishburne, and all these incredible stars were. Terrence Howard, just remember it was like this regular crazy thing.
Dancing, going,
Yeah.
what's Terrence Howard doing on the dance floor?
I also think that when the Olympics came, that was another real gosh, we could do a history lesson on
We
Sydney.
really could. And this is stuff people
They
know, but
don't know.
they don't think to talk about it because I don't think they think how important these numbers
It's
are.
integral to our culture and how it's developed over the years. And I see so many, I do a lot of mentoring now and a lot of vocal coaching or performance coaching more so with young, entertainers, and they're usually, black, brown, whatever it is. And they don't understand the essence of where it all started. Like just the other night, I went to the opening of Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's like the Capitol, down there. And we're walking along Pitt Street, and I came up behind like McDonald's and like parallel to George Street, and that little alleyway where Soul Sense used to be. That's where it, like I got goosebumps.
Historical.
That's where it started. When we had to sort out music. I would go to the record store after school. I sound like I'm 1,000, and sit there with Fred and what's the. I remember also there was like a Tongan guy in there, and there was like DJ Motto, and I used to sing on like Juke Joint, and I was very young, but like that was the culture before, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have it wasn't readily available to us.
Not at all.
Was it? It was like.
It was not. That's where the education for so many of us began. That was the launch pad for a lot of us. And I know that there's moments before that. Robert and Eddie Khalil and their club scene, and then people that were clubbing before us. Because then it sort of trickles really, really far back.
Yeah.
A lot of those people are in our community now. But
Yeah.
I believe that we were in almost what would have been the golden age of like our hip hop, like how we look at states right now and we see all these heavy hitter names, like there's a lot of stuff going on in hip hop right now, so we won't talk about it. But you know what I'm saying, like the major players in the
Absolutely.
industry, we were that here.
And we were told constantly, especially for me, I was signed by the time I was like 13, and I was doing pop, and all I wanted to do was do R&B, and it was always like, that'll never work here, you'll never work here. No. And I never had a manager, I never had a label that ever believed in me, not because I wasn't good, and I know that now, I can say it now, but I didn't know that then, but only because they didn't understand how a girl like me could fit in to this landscape. And it was like, I've, like you were saying before, I've been like downloading, I guess, a lot of just my thoughts of what I've been through, and I've found my community are really reacting well to it. And I was saying, like, if I could go all the way back, I would know that my superpower was me. And all the things that made me different. Whereas they were telling me that all the things that made me different were the things that were wrong. And it's like, that was not, but also they were so afraid of how different we were,
Yeah, absolutely, Prinnie. And I think that's part of what I really when I saw you kind of doing those little videos, just catching your random thoughts, talking to it, giving. But it wasn't just actually it wasn't random thoughts. Those are
No,
those are things that you've had locked in one of the many tabs that we have in our
100%.
heads, and that filing drawer is full, and it now needs to come out. So when I saw that, I went, "Oh man, this is necessary now. This is the time we
Yeah,
need to start talking about that now because you've got so
yeah,
much history, and people just think because they see you on TV or you appear on the Channel 9 show talking about it, whatever appearance. That's not
yeah,
Prinnie. There's so much more to your story, and I think,
totally.
yeah, I'm really happy that you're doing what you're doing online now. Because this generation just is so lost when it comes to that historical aspect of what this community was really about. I think that's why, for me, writing about it and being on the sort of media, not sort of like big media, but the writing side of things and the radio side, for so many years that was the
Yeah,
point I needed to be. I didn't understand it then, and I get it now. And that was my role to play, is capturing and trying to interview as many of the important people that have created this community as I can. Because there's
absolutely.
not a lot of people doing that. Nobody wants to really talk to us because, but that was just a scene. It's not a scene. It was nowhere near a scene. It was a
No,
community, and it was a really integral community.
absolutely. And there were so many incredible people that did amazing things for artists, and even like I supported probably every R&B hip hop person that came into town. People were like sick of me, and I was just like, I don't care. The amount of, like, I would try and see a guy or like
Mm,
date someone, and then I'd be like, oh, I've got to go and do support for Ja Rule, and it's just like, well, there goes that guy, because they just think because I'm backstage, I'm gonna do all the things, and it's like, I am so professional. I'm so, like, I would never. I'm like, thank you so much for having me. Here's my CD. Have a great time. Not to the point where I wouldn't even go to like the after parties or
yeah,
any of the things, because I never wanted to ever be seen like that. I always wanted to be taken seriously for what I did, to a point of maybe a bit crazy, because I didn't even allow myself to just have fun sometimes. I mean, I don't regret any of it, but I think that's from my mum, just very like, you don't walk in and take advantage of something that is, uh, it's a privilege to be able to have that. You don't go and mess it up by doing something stupid because have
absolutely,
3 seconds of whatever. But
absolutely.
there was so much, um, going on, like, and so many incredible people that,
Mm,
uh, it's it's crazy, and they are, they say things are built on the shoulders of others. It has definitely been built on those shoulders. And yeah, and I look at the artists now, and I'm just so, like, people like Kate and Solly and Becca Hatch, and so
mm,
many, even Jess Malboy.
yeah,
she was a baby when kind of all of this started, and she kind of came in at the back end of it. Um,
she did.
yeah, because she was too young to really know what was going on. And she was definitely a vessel for what I was talking about before, where they're like, we don't know where to put you. And they just went, oh, we'll just make you an Australian Beyonce. And it's like, there's levels
OMG.
to being black and brown, people. There's levels. Yeah, Beyonce. That's my
For
girl.
sure.
That is my girl. I will fight for her like 10 toes down. But like, Beyonce and Jess and Rihanna and me and Jill Scott, completely different.
No,
Everybody's different.
no. It's
Everybody's
almost
different.
that terrible sort of tokenism, that
And
tokenistic way of
stereotype.
looking at a black or brown female singer and
Yep.
immediately wanting to put you in the same category as. It's okay to be different. And no one here is a Jill Scott, just like no
No,
one overseas is a Prinnie, just like
that's
no one
right.
over there is Jess, and like there's
And
no Beyonce. And I hate the
and that's what
comparison trap.
totally, and that's what I was saying before about my superpower was me. Jess's superpower is her. Jess's superpower is that she's endearing, is that she's Aboriginal, is that she's got a mouth where she starts talking, you're like, oh my gosh, she's actually
Yeah.
like hood. Do you know what I mean? But those things that make her her are her superpower. And if they had concentrated on that, she would be even bigger than she is now. Not, and this is no knock on her and her career,
No,
because
God
what
no.
she's done is incredible. And I'm one of the biggest fans and really good friends with her, and I admire her, and her voice is one of the best to ever come out of this country. She's just a natural born talent. But I do think they tried to market her in a world that, yeah. And it's funny because you're like, they were too scared, but then one of the first things she did was go over and get Snoop Dogg to feature on something, and it's like,
Yeah.
what?
I
Um,
know. It's just
yeah.
crazy. I mean, and it highlights that journey as a professional singer in this country. If you don't fit into a category that is easy
Oh.
for the labels to, kind of market you the way they want to. So that
But
leads me
I
to
also think
our next.
that's a bit of a lie as well. Not your lie, but I mean, like for me, I was easy to market. Like there wasn't. It was really clear that I did R&B. Like my story was clear. Let me say that.
Right,
But they were
right.
just like, yeah, but they just weren't confident that R&B pop would work here.
Yeah. No, I know. It was the doubt, and it was always the doubt. It was the same doubt that was in hip. It was the
And
same
also,
doubt
I
that.
think I'm unapologetically brown or all the things.
But
And
you know
that
what
they
though?
couldn't handle.
But when you're on stage or when you're on TV, you are just a consummate professional. So I think they probably feared that when they maybe were talking to you behind the scenes because you're authentic and
Weird.
you're in your power. But then when you step on camera, you go, the things they worried about, like you being put on camera, like there's palm colored singers out here that are good, and you go, don't put them on camera. Like, just they're not media trained, or
Well,
so even that
that's,
thought process is warped because
yeah.
it's just bizarre what we deal with in this country sometimes.
But I was signed in America for a long time, and we were working with Clive Davis for a while, who looked after Whitney Houston, and he was telling us that Whitney was not allowed to talk when they first had her. And she was, because they were trying to make this really demure, she like model, and she was not allowed to have interviews for like, what did he say? It was like 3 years or something. Because they were worried, like you were saying, that she was just going to be like, that she was too hood. And they were trying to make this polished,
Polished.
um, yeah. And it's like, and then when you see all those, uh, the videos and even the reality show with her and Bobby, and that's when everybody starts blaming Bobby because they never knew she was like that, but she'd been like that whole time. It was
Oh,
just
true.
a team protecting who she really was.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how they've spun things over the years. I think people are finally realizing those sort of, um, not even a faux pas. It's just like the wall's been kind of lifted over people's eyes, especially in the entertainment industry. But a lot can be
Totally.
said about, with everything that happens. I mean, Australia is relatively sort of safer in that world, no? In terms of you go out
Absolutely.
there, you get your deal. Yeah, there's shadiness everywhere, but I think here we are still about the talent and making sure that, I'm no singer, but again, it doesn't seem to be what is going on in the outside of the world, and we're obviously
Yeah.
realizing so much now that of what has happened. I mean, yeah, we're a smaller country, we don't have as many numbers, but we still have an incredibly talented and thriving recording industry
100%.
here.
I feel like the real changing point, especially for me, was Rihanna. And if you look at Rihanna and you look at Beyonce, it's that difference between the well groomed and the well put together. And I definitely fell into that, where we're the same kind of age. I think, yeah, we're actually the same age. But then there's Rihanna who comes out. She's unapologetically her. She'll jump on a camera and do her makeup. And there's like the two of them you just cannot compare. And that has turned into this new age of people wanting the raw version of artists. Whereas before it was like, no, you're an artist, and then you go home and you be yourself. And it's like, even, Jimmy Barnes, his daughter being one of my best friends, I ask a million questions whenever I meet anyone. And I always ask him about, like, how it would be. Imagine him and that rock age now. Like, that just would not survive. People expect people to be stars now and good humans and not crazy and not all the things. I think there's a huge pressure on artists and sportsmen, and just in general, to be normal. I'm Tongan. I've got a lot of family in football, and I'm like, they beat each other up for a living. How normal do you want them to be? Like,
Exactly.
we put ourselves out there on stage every night. How normal do you want me to be? Because,
Yeah, that's so true.
and it's like Whitney Houston, it's like Michael Jackson, it's like they're all one step away from crazy, or maybe not even that far,
Yeah,
but
no,
to
you're
get a
right.
vocal like that and get artists like that will push themselves beyond the realm of normal, it means you're not normal, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, people like Justin Bieber and all the things, it's this weird, it's a weird industry to be a part of. And I think there's always a circle. And I think we're like starting to come back around, but Australia definitely, we have the roots of incredible R&B, hip hop, and it's just about feeding it constantly, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you stay constant with your own journey. You sort of
Oh
take
yeah.
some time off, and then you'll come back. You do a lot of shows all around Australia. So how do you prepare with that? Because you're not just this incredible performer, but you're an amazing mother. You're a wife. You've got a family that like we've spoken about your cultural connections with your families, but you're raising beautiful girls and strong, empowered women.
Mm-hmm.
And massive age gap between the girls as well. One is flying high and living her basketball dreams, and the other one is probably watching. And what do you think? We might have another basketball player, or maybe a little
Lord, I hope
Prinnie.
not. I hope I don't- Whatever she does,
A
she'll be
lot.
screaming it from the hilltops. It's funny, I was just about 2 days ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was just so drained. And I realized, and because I do, excuse me, I do a lot of mentoring as well. And one of my artists was singing at the Arias. And, mentoring and performance coaching is not just going, la, la, la. It's, and the people I work with women of color. That's my passion. And it's about standing in your power, knowing who you are, being in a place like standing at the Arias and delivering and being unwavered no matter what goes on around you. And when you say, I am a mom, and I'm a mom of two girls that are women of color, black women, that, as I was saying before, I was telling my friend how drained I was. And I'm like, I feel, well, not I feel, but I get all the things of life, and dealing it at my age, and my daughter who's 19, then my other daughter who's 6. Sometimes it gets so overwhelming because, partial racism, all the thing, like just little parts of it all the time, or sometimes big things. It is exhausting, and it's, generational trauma. It's all the things, and it's stuff that we have to deal with every day. And part of me talking and unpacking all of this stuff is because I watch it happen to my girls. And I think when it was happening to me, it was one thing. I would just soldier on and keep on going. But then when I start seeing it with my kids, I'm like, oh, it wasn't me, and you start going, this stuff happened to me. This stuff happened, and you're like, and in the moment you're just,
always reliving that trauma again,
oh
and
my
you've got to deal
goodness.
with it now with your children. You have to deal
Yeah.
with it now with your kids.
Yeah, and also empower them with the knowledge and the confidence and all the things, but also not enable them. There's
Yeah.
so much enabling going on in, just in general. I find, a lot of people say that the youth are sheltered and they don't know how to work hard. And well, my daughter was, I know my husband, they would train 5 a.m. most mornings, and he would say, if you wake me up, they would be on the court at 5 a.m. If you wake me up, we'll go to training. If you don't wake me up, awesome, I get to sleep in. So the onus was on her to get him up, to go to training, to do all the things. And that's what it takes, and all we can do as parents is lead by example, because you can talk all the things you want to talk and tell them, run your mouth all day. But if you're living a different way, they're not going to believe you, So it's like, I work really hard, and my gears got far deeper and better when I had kids, because I was like, oh, okay, they're watching now, and you don't ever want them to do, things you wouldn't do yourself. So yeah, I've definitely feeling the pressure more, having like 3 different ages of going through it, and all the things that young women of color go through. It's yeah, it's tough, but also that's just women, and it's it's across the board, just all the things. And for
I
me,
feel
my
you. I feel you
biggest,
on the.
yeah,
I feel you on the exhaustion and being a mom and just trying to manage it all, but also trying to be, not trying to be, but also continuing to be the authentic women that we are and the women of purpose that we are. I think that's important to never lose that.
totally. And not falling into
And
the
also
angry black woman trap,
that
because it's
whole thing,
easy,
yeah,
you know it's easy, but it's also not viable, and it's not healthy, and it's not all those things. It's like, and I've
yeah,
done a lot of healing, and I remember I wrote something on Instagram. The crazy thing about my life is that I'll do interviews and someone will like read it back to me and go, what did that mean? And I remember I had an interview, and she said to me, on your Instagram you wrote, um I because of my past, I didn't think I could raise girls, but now I know, because of my past, that's why I was made to raise girls. And,
wow,
she was an Australian woman, and she was like, what does that mean? And I was like, how long have you got? um, because I didn't know, like when I was younger, I didn't know if I was equipped to raise women and, girls, and I always wanted a boy. And I think it was just because I was like, oh, my husband can raise him to be a good man. And I was scared to like walk into my own power and go, come on, we're strong enough. But it's actually made me stronger. And
yeah,
yeah, and fighting through an industry that never, I don't want to say never believed in me. That sounds really like depressing, but like I never had a team, and but also life gave that to me because I found the strength myself. And I'm glad I didn't rely on others, because I see so many other artists that have had the team and the the
right,
manager and the label and the this and the that and the
yeah,
stylist and the whatever, and then when they leave, they're standing alone going, guys, what do I do? What do I do? How do I put out a song? How do I get a gig? How do I find a dress to go and do a show? Little things like that. Whereas because I haven't had that, I have built so many skills along the way that now, I work on all the TV shows now. I'm a music producer and casting producer on The Voice and Idol. I did Masked Singer. And that has just been really powerful as well, because there's always one person that'll look at me like, please help me. And whatever, you know, group, minority that they're from, there are several. But they know that I'm the real one, that will be like, come here, baby, come on.
yeah, yeah,
And that's why I do
absolutely.
it.
And there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of that, Prinnie, because it's such a um it's such a lonely road. right?
Oh,
Entertainment. Even though you've got all these people around you, it's incredibly insular. And I think when you
100%.
become and then it becomes such a self. It's all about self, right? Yet you're entertaining masses. So how much of yourself can you keep giving to people if A, you don't fill your cup, B, you don't fill other people's cups as well, and
Yeah,
C, you don't hold yourself to accountability for you, for the path you're walking, and for the goal you've set for yourself at the end of the day. And
totally.
that's where that's the age that we're in now. That's what we've had to sort of fight for all along to get to this point. Now we look up and go, oh, now what?
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
so
like, oh, I get it now.
yeah,
Can we go back? Wait,
that's
let me do it
exactly
again. Let me
right.
do it again. That's not
No,
true. I
we don't
wouldn't
want to do
change
it again.
anything. And also, ignorance is bliss. Like, I haven't even mentioned like all the like musical theater and acting stuff that I did that, it's audition after audition after audition, and not placing your own self-worth in being chosen is a whole other thing. And the mental health behind, being in this industry and not putting your self-worth on whether people choose you, and it's like, it sounds so corny, but you got to wake up every day and choose you. It's like very self-motivated industry, and if you can't get up and do that every day, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's like one of those things. And I didn't always believe in myself. I don't know, I also am very a big believer in ancestors and like all the prayers that my family before me had for me, um,
Yeah,
and a community that has helped me raise my kids and allowed me to do what I do. And also like great friends that are in the industry that I can have real conversations with. That even my friend Mahalia the other like a month ago, she was like, "Can you just slow down? Like, you don't get a prize for this. You do know that, right? Like, just sit down." 2 seconds.
yeah,
I'm like, coming from
just
you,
sit
like
to
she
it.
manages her dad and is doing 8 shows a week. But sometimes you just need like-minded people around you that can see you and also read you down and just be like,
Yeah,
hey, call you out. And
that's
you
the
can't
important
be
part.
afraid of the truth. You
No,
you cannot, because yeah, it'll kill you
no,
otherwise.
we
Like,
you really will. It really will. And again, we're living in a time now where the rose-colored glasses are off. They've been off for a
oh,
while, I think. But
they've been
I
off.
think I think COVID had a lot to do with us. With a lot of and a lot of the entertainment industry coming to the realization that, man, ain't nobody coming to save us. We're the first industry to go when shit shuts down, but yet they expect us to be the first coming back when things need to be revived. But no one was looking after entertainers and performers and DJs when the world was closed for so long. But we were the ones that were entertaining, whether it was on Zoom or on Twitch or whatever the app was. We were out there singing for people's mental health and DJing and doing all kinds of things. So that was the biggest lesson for me, that art, entertainment, creativity is the cornerstone of healing and connectivity and community. And our industry just yeah, it was overlooked, I think, so much before that happened. And I think artists are now moving
Absolutely.
forward in such a in such a more um not positive, that's not the word, but I think there's
More
more awareness,
conscious
there's more
almost.
conscious,
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
consciousness. I think that's the
Yeah.
age we're living in. So but I'm so glad that you spoke on the things you spoke about, because it comes like a full circle moment. You've always been a consistent performer. You've always been booked, blessed, and moisturized and wonderfully hydrated, I'm sure. But you're always doing your thing, right? Exactly. See what I'm saying? She's always you got to be hydrated, girls. Our
Yep.
skin is so good.
Hmm.
But what are you enjoying now about performing? Like
I
what's your
in
life like now?
My life is completely different. For my mental health, I got sick of everything you were saying before. I got sick of playing the stereotype and being the brown girl in the corner that would just go and sing some Aretha or Whitney or this or that, or doing a musical where an old English man is telling me and Paulini how to sing Whitney Houston. Like, no
Jesus,
longer
take the
shall I.
wheel.
Jesus, take all the wheels. So now I've created a world for myself. I write and produce my own shows. I only work with producers that I trust, I know. And you know, more than anything, what I've done is created a safe space for myself, but also other women, other people of color, other marginalized communities. And I've also, it has meant that I can book my year, you know, and I sit down and I just said on my one of the chats I had just recently about like 1, 3, 6, 9, 12-month plan, which is 1 year, then 3 years, then 5 years. And really, like, that's where my life has changed, because the mental health of sitting around waiting to be booked is a slippery slope to depression. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I had to take the reins on my own career. And now, yeah, like I said, I write and produce my own stuff. I do fringe festivals all over the country now, and I work with people who I respect. So, like, for Christmas, I'm doing a show called Christmas Spectacular. There's a guy who's producing it, but I music produce the show. It's just being in a different space where I'm not being used for my talents. I'm creating safe spaces. And also, when I hire people, I was just talking to an incredible Queen Hollywood, and I was saying, you know, when I hire people, I say, this is your time. You do what you want to do in that moment. Because I would have such bad anxiety. I would go and do corporates or shows or whatever, and they'd say, we want you to sing Aretha songs, and we want you to sing this song, and this song. And then I'd go up there and I'd be like, I don't know this song, I've only just learnt it. And I'm like, I got to a point and an age where I'd say, you know, actually, if you want me to sing Aretha, these are the songs I know. Because there are a lot of privileged people who will just tell you what they want, and they don't even think about how you're coming into the situation. Like, I've been singing for over 30 years. I can guarantee I'm going to know a song that's going to create the moment you want. It might not be the song you are
Yeah.
desperately wanting, and maybe I'll learn one song, but you know, these people who are just all about power just want to see you do what they want you to do. And I, just got sick of being in those environments. I didn't feel safe. I always, had anxiety and didn't feel good about myself, because then I'd go on and not give my best performance because, I'm ill prepared, and I'm like, I know I'm better than this. I know I can. So I just had
That's
to
self
kind of
doubt.
totally. But even the way I word things now, like if I get asked to do a disco thing, rather than them saying this is what you're singing, I'll go, okay, great. Here's my disco list. Go and pick the songs. And sometimes it's not even people changing, it's us changing the narrative, And also knowing your worth walking into a space. And if I'm going to be that for, a whole group of people, then I'm happy for that. And my aim is so now I've been doing Lady Sings the Blues for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. And it's cabaret, it's everything from jazz to hip hop. Like, I sing Freedom from Beyonce, but I also sing Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. And it talks about all these women of color and the shit they had to go through to be able to just have a voice. People like Billie Holiday, who was singing Strange Fruit, that they would say, oh, come in, sing for us, but don't sing that song.
Yeah.
And every night I say, and because of that, I will be singing it. And I remember there was one night I did in Adelaide, and I had a critic walk up to me, because my husband's African American. I am Tongan and Indigenous, Aboriginal. And I had a critic walk up to me and said, did you ask your husband for permission to sing Strange Fruit?
What?
But these are the things they say to us, babe. Are you
Yeah,
that
the
surprised?
audacity,
Like
I know.
it's, and I was just like,
Oh, Lord, the gall that you had to come over.
but also I was, and this is my opening night, right? So this is the first time I ever produced, wrote. Yeah, I wrote the show, I produced the show, I did the staging, I did the everything. I wrote all the music, I did all the things. And this man walks up and says this to me. And I'm like, did I ask my husband for permission to sing Strange Fruit?
What did you say? Please tell me what you were supposed to
Oh, I couldn't. Because
save
Diary
yourself.
of a Black Woman was about to come out with a. I literally looked at him, but he was with a black girl. And I just remember looking at her and going, and I walked away. And he said, and you need to. Oh no, I remember what he said. He said, "Did you ask permission?" And I feel like you needed to do the whole song because I only did the first part. And I said, number one, I don't feel like I could get through the whole song because the whole show was so harrowing for me. I was talking about so many deep, dark, triggering things of like slavery and rape and just so many things of that these women of color had been through. And I said, you know what? And then he goes to me, oh, I'm going to come back at the end of the run. So I ran for like a week, and I'm going to come back and see the changes you've made.
Oh, no, you better
Because he
not.
wanted me to do the whole thing. And I said, I was like, I've got to go, because the other thing you've got to remember, there's like 100 people out there all waiting to talk to me that I have to now go over to Beryl and shake her hand, be like, hi, Joe. And like, Beryl, I want to punch this man in the face. Like,
Or you punch
and
him, and then the barrel goes, oh, I didn't know Prinnie was like that.
but
And you
also,
leave.
please not be the angry black woman,
This is it.
And it's
Yeah.
like, this
Yeah.
is what they want you to do. This is what they want you to be. This is where it's going.
God, the audacity.
And he came back at the end of the run, and I didn't change a thing.
Good for you. He is not,
And
he
he,
was not the creator. He could sit there and he could learn to tune in and out. And as a critique, he may need to go back and learn how to critique properly. You don't tell people in their face how to change things. You might give
yeah.
feedback. But
He
every
also
day,
gave me 5 stars, and I was just like, you're a punk. Like, you can say that to my face, but anyway, and that's just one of a trillion things that, that's just one that came to mind. But I guess to answer your question, I've created a safe space for myself and many other artists like Paulini and all the younger girls that I know and love, and there are so many incredible girls. A girl named Fasika who did the voice, and she's half Ethiopian and half Filipino, and there's so many. Just I couldn't even like begin to name it, but they yeah, and I love it, and I love getting up. I love creating now, and it's not there's no fear in me anymore.
good.
You know?
Prin, it's so interesting that you say that about the the safe space and the anxiety, because for years as a DJ, I've suffered from the anxiety
Mhm.
from going into spaces with private parties, weddings, corporate events, and this is what I do. This is the DJ I am. Your R&B, hip hop. I do your 80s funk, and I've had to grow the repertoire because
Of
you get
course.
bookings when you stretch a bit. But I'm not. I don't play certain things because that's not my music, and it's certainly not something that I would be able to play confidently. And I don't go into those particular areas. But I, like yourself, would go into certain parties, things, and feel really uncomfortable. And I didn't feel, and of course, going on my own too. I didn't have people. I was setting up myself, doing all those things, and you're DJing, and then people are coming up asking you to play certain things, and I don't mind that. That's
San.
fine, right? Oh, trust me, I have my coach's list, honey. I have the
I
Australian
bet.
list ready to go, and I got booked and blessed and booked from that list. But it was more just the aggression that people would sort of come, similar to you, like you will sing all these Ariki songs, and then you go and sing it knowing I'm not comfortable singing it. I'd be there playing all this other stuff going, I just felt like a jukebox, like one of those Moby Disc DJs. And it was so demeaning, and I'd come out of there so depressed. And it wasn't just about money, it's a craft, it's an art form that you and I both put a lot of years into, and I had to
Hmm.
stop saying yes to those gigs, or I would feel the anxiety, that performance anxiety rise. And then I started to go, this is what I do. These are the
Yep.
songs.
These are the
These
parameters.
are the parameters. I do take requests, but only up to a certain amount, because at the end of the day, I am curating your show. You're booking me for a reason. But
Yep.
it just got to a point where I had to stop because I felt like I had one of those, what was a wind up
You almost
doll,
feel like a
and
clown. I
a
know that
clown.
sounds weird, but
Terrible.
also it's the stereotype of like it's the tokenism. It's like, oh, they just want a funky brown DJ, or they just want a brown diva that can
That's
stand
it.
there and
Yep.
and it's like,
It was
or you
terrible.
could, yeah,
It was really terrible. Or they'd come and shove the phone up and go, "Can you play that off YouTube?" And that was where I just went, "I don't do that." And then I
yeah,
had somebody trying to challenge me, and I went, "I don't come to your office and tell you what
that
to do.
part,
Please don't come here and disrespect me. If you don't like something, wait till the end." And then I had to tell a couple of places I'm out. I had to regroup because I started to hate DJing,
yeah,
and I loved it. And as a female DJ in this country, especially in our community, there weren't a lot at the time.
mm-mm.
There still isn't a lot. There's
There
more
still
now,
isn't.
but it's yeah. I just started to feel like that. So I totally. It's crazy that you said it, because I would never have thought you felt like that, because you
Oh
never
my
showed it.
gosh.
You never showed
But
it.
and that's the hard part when you fight through it
Yeah.
and
To
you
get
just
to
keep
the end.
going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, I'm glad that you don't have to do that anymore. I'm glad that you're
Well, I
I
choose not to. Let me
yeah,
say that. I don't work for the man anymore.
good. Well, you don't have to. After all
Nah.
the years you've been,
I'd rather be broke. I'm not, but I'd rather be broke.
yeah,
I'd rather be happy.
yeah, with your sanity, as opposed to
Yep.
out there. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Listen, my love, there's so many volumes to this story, and I think I'm so grateful that we've gotten a chance to chat, and that you've
Me
you've shared
too.
just a portion of it on my platform. But I would love to continue having a chat with you as this next chapter evolves, and just stay connected, because we've
Absolutely.
been
I
in the
think there's
trenches.
a lot of chapters like you say. Like I'd love to even just really refine some of those chapters and give ourselves, even just talking to you, there's so much wealth in the industry that we grew up in, and I think there's so much that people can learn, and it'd be great to kind of just pick a few and really hone in on them sometime.
Well,
um
we've got
yeah,
creativity, and hopefully some time next year. So I'm here,
absolutely.
and I'll continue to cheer for you in the wings, and
And
I'd
you too.
love to see one of your shows one day.
Oh my gosh,
Have
yes.
to come out and check
I'd
it
love
out.
for you to see Lady Sings the Blues.
I'd love to see that.
You'd be a mess. No
When are
one
you
ever
in
gets through it
Sydney?
without crying.
When is it in Sydney
um
again?
I'm taking a bit of a break,
You need
she
to.
says. She says, but I'm on my Christmas. So I have a show called Christmas Spectacular that I'm going all over the country with. And then January, I'm actually doing a Tina Turner show, actually, just for fun, um, just in my spare time.
Because you have so
Um,
much.
well, no, I just love to sing and dance
Yeah.
and perform and talk. And that's the other thing I found, like now that I'm older, my gosh, you can't shut me up on stage now. It's like, and because I do have so many stories, I go and I just waffle, and people feel like they're getting to know me now. And it's like
This
what
is
I was
your
saying about the videos, like,
yes.
and I've had to put on the mask for so long that now I'm like, ah,
That's what I noticed too. This is your conversation era, girlfriend. I noticed
yeah,
that because I went, she never does this, and because
nah,
I've followed you for years, and I'm like, you just put pictures, or stuff with you and your girls, or shows or whatever, just life, and I was like, shit, she's talking. So you know what I
yeah.
mean, like that. I just when I went,
There was a huge response to it, and I'm like, but also, why aren't we all talking? And I wasn't consciously not talking. That's the weird thing. And I was trying. I'm just on socials just because sell my shows and blah blah blah. But now I'm like, my next era is mentoring, and so I'm going to be doing, just mentoring classes and all of that, because that's what all the years I've done. it needs to, yeah, I need to use it for good
do, and you've
for
got
the
such
next gen.
absolutely, you've got a wealth of knowledge, and you're still in the game as opposed to mentoring and not being in it, and sort of talking
That's it.
from a time that was. You're talking time that was, time you're
Yeah,
in, and what's coming, and that's what these young creatives need. So well done, well done to you.
totally. Thank you so much. Please, we have to do this again.
We will. I promise.
Absolutely.
We won't take 2 years next time. But I understand we've both got a lot going on. But thank you, my love. I appreciate it
No,
so much.
thank you. Send my love to the family too.
You too, and good luck with the show. And Christmas blessings to you all.
Merry Christmas.
Can't believe it. I don't even want to say it, but we will.
Yeah, let's
Thanks, my
not.
love.
Let's not.
I'll see you soon. Bye, darling.
See you.
See if y'all want to turn up, tell Salman, say turn it up. Say turn it up. Come on. 10. Come on. 9. Everybody. 8. Come on. 7. 6. Come on. Check it out.
All I want is just someone to hear me, listen to what I have to say.